Hey, what's up, guys? Welcome to the channel. This is my post-fight for UFC 265. If this is the first time watching one of my videos, do me a favor, make sure you subscribe. So let's talk about the UFC 265 results. In the main event, you have Ciryl Gane defeating Derrick Lewis by third round TKO. And this fight went pretty much exactly how I thought it would go. I think in my prediction video, I said Ciryl Gane, fourth round TKO. And I know a lot of people complain that Ciryl Gane's a point fighter and that he would probably win this by decision. But if you looked at Derrick Lewis's past, he tends to fade even in 3 round fights. And he has the power over 3 rounds. And even when he's dead tired, he still has power. But when you start to fade against a guy like Ciryl Gane, who's shown he has 5 round cardio, it's not going to end well for you. And this fight just went down first round. Ciryl Gane was super patient. He was super technical. He was weary of Derrick Lewis's power, which everyone knows. Derrick Lewis has one strategy when he comes out to fight, and that is to take your head off, one punch KO. And Derrick Lewis waits and waits and waits and then explodes, and then waits and waits and waits. And I think Derrick Lewis does this, well, one, because it's worked for him over the course of his career, but also because his stamina is limited, and he knows that. So it's not like he can really throw combinations because, especially, he gets tired in a 3 round fight. So imagine what's going to happen to him over the course of a 5 round fight. And I know this is Derrick Lewis's strategy, but it's just not going to hold up forever. He was able to use it against Curtis Blades, and he won. He landed that uppercut. He stiffened him up. But it's just not going to. This is not a strategy that can work long term against elite fighters. Eventually, it's going to catch up to you. And tonight, it caught up to him against Ciryl Gane. Ciryl Gane picked him apart for that entire first round. He landed jabs. He landed nice leg kicks. He was using deep kicks to the body to manage the distance. And he was just keeping Derrick Lewis on the outside. He was using a good change of direction, kind of like Adesanya when he fought Paulo Costa last year, where he was faking to one side, then running to the opposite. And Derrick Lewis just could never catch up to him. He had a couple of explosions throughout the fight, but for the most part, he did nothing. In the first round, there was a groin shot by Derrick Lewis. And then towards the end of the first round, Ciryl Gane landed a good 1-2 on Derrick Lewis and punched him right in the eye. And on that strike, Ciryl Gane got eye poked. And that kind of saved Derrick Lewis from absorbing a little bit more damage in that last 10 to 15 seconds, that eye poke that Gane received. So he backed up because his eye was having a problem there. But first round, that's pretty much what happened. Second round, Ciryl Gane really started to, attack him a little, just get a little bit more aggressive. And there was some exchanges where Derrick Lewis kind of rushed in. There was like an awkward clinch. Ciryl Gane was trying to, get space, but, he almost had his back turned to Derrick Lewis, and Derrick Lewis throws some big strikes. But for all intents and purposes, Derrick Lewis did nothing in this fight. He was outclassed completely. Ciryl Gane went out there and he just worked his strategy exactly, to the game plan. He chopped the legs, he chopped the body. We seen what Ciryl Gane can do, even against other technical guys like Volkov. And I know Derrick Lewis has a win over Volkov, but that win he lost for 14 minutes and 50 seconds and landed one punch and KO'd him. And Volkov has gotten so much better since then, and Ciryl Gane beat him recently and had a quick turnaround for this fight. And you can even go back to, and I know I'm sounding like I'm hating on Derrick Lewis here, but if you remember, the UFC needed a headliner for one of the UFC cards in NYC a few years ago when Daniel Cormier was champion. And they asked Daniel Cormier to step in, and they asked to give Stipe the rematch. It was just after DC had knocked out Stipe. And DC said, no, I'm not fighting Stipe on short notice. But he said, I'll fight Derrick Lewis. Because Derrick Lewis' skill set is so limited. He's literally only, I know he has good timing. I know he has good kicks. But the stamina is limited. The takedown defense is limited. The jiu-jitsu is limited. And the stamina is the big issue with him. If he can't land that knockout blow, he just can't pull off the victory. It just he doesn't win any other way. And I wanted to mention something that literally drove me nuts. When I was tuning in for the prelims, they had Chael Sonnen on the broadcast. And he was talking about that Derrick Lewis had never been finished. He never been TKO'd or KO'd. What is Chael Sonnen purposely just being comically wrong? Derrick Lewis has lost 5 fights within the UFC. All 5 of those have been finishes. One was submission by DC. The other four were KO or TKO from various opponents. So I wanted to point that out. Did anybody else see that? Let me know in the comments. I thought that was totally ridiculous. But when that third round came along, and this is kind of how I anticipated the fight going down, Ciryl Gane had picked up that Derrick Lewis was starting to slow down a bit. And it's crazy because I don't know what Derrick Lewis's output for this fight was. And I hate to say this again, I sound like I'm piling on Derrick Lewis, but he should be ashamed of this performance. And I know it's easier said than done, but I'm not sure if he even landed five strikes in this fight. He didn't land anything. There was maybe he had 3 explosions, and I know it's all part of that strategy for Derrick Lewis. We've seen the story before. He does it, and then he lands that knockout blow, and all is forgiven. But in this fight, he didn't land anything. I literally don't remember him really landing anything clean at all. Everything he threw was blocked, and he didn't throw much. He didn't throw much at all. And in that third round, Ciryl Gane could tell that Derrick Lewis was fading. He hurt him badly. Derrick Lewis loves to do this thing. I think he did it against Mark Hunt. He did it against Junior Dos Santos. When he's hurt, he almost curls up against the cage, and he just shells up. He bends down, and Ciryl Gane was just letting loose on him. And Derrick Lewis was covering up pretty well. He was blocking pretty well, but he had nothing to offer. He didn't throw anything, of note. Ciryl Gane was just beating him up. The referee didn't really step in. He was kind of looking at it closely, but Lewis was pretty much blocking everything. He finally stood up. There was a clinching exchange for a second. Ciryl Gane was kneeing him to the legs and body, I believe. And then eventually landed another few strikes, hurt him again. He did the same thing, but he kind of fell down to the ground this time. It wasn't. I don't know if it was really a drop. It's hard. I mean, it's hard to remember. It literally just happened, but there's so many fights. It's hard to remember exactly what happened. I didn't even watch the replay, honestly. Since the fight ended, they showed the replay, but I didn't watch it since then. And I just jumped right on here to make the video. But he just ended up, kind of face down, turtled up. And Ciryl Gane was just pounding him out until the referee finally stepped in. And I know this almost sounds counterintuitive because Derrick Lewis is a guy who will be losing, come back and win. But he's a guy, when he faces real serious adversity, and I talk about this on my channel all the time, when he faces that real serious adversity, he packs it in. He knew he was done. He knew he had nothing to offer. He wasn't KO'd. I don't even know if he was rocked that badly. He just laid on that ground. He covered up. He ate all the shots really on the forearms and hands. And he just waited for the referee to pull Ciryl Gane off. And again, I know it sounds like I'm piling on Derrick Lewis, but it's just not a good performance. You got a heavyweight title shot that was gifted to you. It should have never been an interim title fight. It was gifted to you. The UFC just wanted to sell tickets. They have that that partnership with the Toyota Center. I guess they needed a headliner with a title fight on there. Gifted a title shot. And to just kind of not really throw any strikes and to end up just curling up on the mat and waiting for the referee to save you from Ciryl Gane, it's just not a good look. And again, I know it comes with the strategy, and I know easier said than done. Ciryl Gane is clearly one of the best heavyweights on the planet. But it gets finished, and I think Ciryl Gane had an excellent performance. He stuck to the game plan. This is a guy that has one of the best fight IQs in the game. He's a new breed of heavyweight. I've been talking about it for a while now. He has great footwork. When Derrick Lewis was charging in those few times, Ciryl Gane just never let him get close. He just could not get close. And then Ciryl Gane was chopping the leg so badly that, I thought there was a chance that Ciryl Gane could get a stoppage via leg kicks. That's how deadly Ciryl Gane's leg kicks. They were hard, and Derrick Lewis is just plodding on that front leg. And I think that helped, take some, power away from Lewis. He wasn't able to, charge forward and throw those big right hands like he normally does. Ciryl Gane just fought a perfect fight tonight, and I cannot wait to see Ciryl Gane versus Francis Ngannou. If you guys heard me complain about this fight, it wasn't because, I love this fight. I love Derrick Lewis versus Ciryl Gane. I thought they were polar opposites. I'd love to see this matchup. But my complaint was I really wanted to see both of them fight Francis Ngannou. And I wanted to see Derrick Lewis get a second shot at Francis Ngannou. And I also wanted to see Ciryl Gane get a shot at Francis Ngannou. And if I had to choose one, I wanted to see Ciryl Gane. So I'm so happy Ciryl Gane pulled this one off. A masterful performance. But again, it's a guy against Derrick Lewis who's a one-trick guy. He's a one-trick guy. If he can't land that right hand, there's not much else for him to offer, I think he went for one takedown in this fight. I'm not even sure. He looked out-muscled in the clinch. It just all-around perfect performance for Ciryl Gane. And it was a great fight for the lead up to that Francis Ngannou fight because Francis Ngannou is much more athletic. He has much more overall skill set than Derrick Lewis. But again, Francis Ngannou has that touch of death like Derrick Lewis does. And it was nice to see Ciryl Gane go out there, be able to neutralize that threat against a guy like Derrick Lewis. Use those front kicks to the body, use his footwork, use the leg kicks, all to just neutralize that power threat of Derrick Lewis and pick him apart and eventually TKO him in the third round. I cannot wait for that Ciryl Gane Francis Ngannou fight. Great performance by Ciryl Gane. I can't wait for that next fight. Before we get to the co-main event, which was my most anticipated fight on the card, do me a favor, guys. If you enjoy these post-fight videos, make sure to like the video. It really helps the channel. Now let's talk about Jose Aldo versus Pedro Munhoz. This was the fight I was most looking forward to on the card. I thought Jose Aldo was eventually, I think I said second round TKO for Jose Aldo was my official prediction. But Jose Aldo wins the decision in an absolute amazing performance. I mean, Pedro Munhoz is criminally underrated at bantamweight. And Jose Aldo almost made him look like he didn't belong tonight. Jose Aldo from the very start just looked so dialed in. We know Pedro Munhoz loves throwing those calf kicks. And every single calf kick or any leg kick at all that Pedro Munhoz thrown, Aldo had an answer for. Whether he moved out of the way, whether he swept the leg to kind of limit the impact, whether he turned the shin in. Just a masterful performance by Aldo. He was just, every leg kick, he had something. You know, there was very few leg kicks that Pedro Munhoz landed flush. Very few, if any. Because Aldo was just, it looked like he went out there and he just saw everything tonight. And Aldo went out there and he won every single round. In my opinion, it was 30-27. I think that was the judges' scorecards. I don't remember for 100% certainty. But what a performance by Aldo. The only way I can describe it is just dialed in. He saw everything. He was landing to the body. He was landing to the head. And when he did make, forward movement and he was really explosive, because the most of the fight, Pedro Munhoz was kind of trying to walk down Aldo. It was Aldo countering. He would have bursts of combinations, but then he would kind of go back to the same strategy, let Munhoz kind of come to him. He just saw everything coming. I mean, it was a phenomenal performance by Aldo, who's been around forever, and it was a patented, legendary performance by Jose Aldo. And another thing I wanted to mention, I love Pedro Munhoz. I love his style. I love to watch him fight. He threw about 10 spinning techniques in this fight, and not one single one even came close to landing. Why is he still throwing those? He's just wasting energy there. And it was just crazy. I don't get it. It's just a total waste of energy. He's just throwing like spinning wheel kicks. They never even came close. I mean, and it was the story of the fight, really. I mean, Pedro Munhoz could not find Jose Aldo at all. Every round he was outstruck. And Aldo is just, a lot of people, when he decided he was going to 135, they were burying him. They were saying there's no way. And Aldo, since he's been at 135, has just looked absolutely phenomenal. And a win over Pedro Munhoz, it may not mean a lot to some people, but it means a lot to me. And that shows me, because I really believe that Pedro Munhoz is a world-class elite bantamweight, and I think the bantamweight division is the best division in the UFC. For Aldo to go out there and really outclass him, because Pedro Munhoz really didn't touch him at all this fight. I mean, Aldo had a beautiful jab. He was ripping to the body. He didn't throw a lot of leg kicks, but the leg kicks that he did throw had a big impact. They were making Munhoz stumble a little bit, and he was throwing them off the hands too. He was throwing combinations with the hands, then following it with a leg kick. And it was just an amazing performance. And Aldo, 3-round Aldo is legendary, in my opinion. If it's not 5 rounds, I just don't know who beats him in a 3-round fight. And I know, that's easy to say because when you fight in a main event or you fight a title fight, it's 5 rounds. If I'm Jose Aldo or Jose Aldo's team, I do not accept a fight non-title that is not 3 rounds. I would never want a main event if I was Jose Aldo unless it's for a title. I'm not fighting 5 rounds because even in this 3rd round, Jose Aldo, he was even more aggressive in the 3rd round. I think the 3rd round might have been his best round. I thought he might have been a little bit tired. But now he was throwing nasty combinations in the 3rd round. He landed Pedro Munhoz. I think he hurt Pedro Munhoz quite a few times throughout this fight. It wasn't like a crazy rock or anything, but he definitely stung him. He snapped his head back quite a few times with the jab. I think it was in the 1st round, Pedro Munhoz was coming in. He timed a knee perfectly, and I think it really stung Munhoz. And Munoz is such a savage. Every time it looked like that he got stunned a little bit, the guy was just ready to brawl. And I mean, I just love that about him. And this was a perfect matchup. Gets Aldo, another win in the bantamweight division. I really think Aldo could be one fight away from a title shot. And I know the bantamweight division is so stacked right now, and who knows if that's gonna, actually happen or not. But I mean, I'd love to see Jose Aldo in that bantamweight title picture. And he's not even that old. I think he's 34, 35. So he's still got a couple years left, if not, 4 or 5 years left in sport at least. And he just looks so good. I mean, his boxing looked much improved. His jab was amazing. His hooks were amazing. There's very few guys that rip to the body the way he does. I used to love John Lineker. He was one of the few guys that would rip to the body. Jose Aldo was doing that tonight, and he was having success, and he was also using the jab to the body, which, if one little jab to the body may not mean much, but over the course of the fight, 10, 11, 12 jabs to the body, they're going to add up. And Pedro Munhoz looked beat up after this fight. It wasn't like he was horribly damaged or anything, but he looked like he had been in a fight, and Aldo really looked unscathed. I think he can probably, I don't want to say he's going to have a super quick turnaround, but we could see Aldo fighting again maybe before the end of the year. And this is now, I think, a 2-fight win streak. I think after he fought Jan, he fought Marlon Vera, and now, tonight, obviously. And maybe he's maybe 2 fights away from a title just because bantamweight is so stacked. I don't know who they match him up with next. I might make a matchmaker video this week or something like that because we ain't got a fight coming up next week. But Aldo, for just being a guy who's been around the sport for so long, who has taken so much damage in those Max Holloway fights and those, Peter Yan fight, well, really not fights, but fight. Just a guy, a lot of people have written him off just because of the damage that he's taken. And he just looks fresh as can be, and he was rolling with every punch. His head movement looked super on point. He looked fast. I just can't give Jose Aldo enough compliments after tonight's performance. Spectacular performance. He wins by decision. Can't wait to see where he goes from here. So let's talk about the third fight down the card, a fight that I absolutely love stylistically, the grappler versus striker. Michael Chiesa versus Vicente Luque, and I picked Vicente Luque in this fight. I did 3 predictions for this card. All 3 of my predictions were correct, so I had a good night. Luque finishes him via Darce choke in the first round. Who predicted that? Michael Chiesa, the fight, while the fight lasted, I think Michael Chiesa did a good job. I actually thought he did a better job than I anticipated. I thought the fight would consist of Vicente Luque stuffing takedowns and just lighting Michael Chiesa up on the feet. And Chiesa was just running like a madman, side to side, just kind of trying to lure Luque in and then eventually looking for the deep shot. And eventually he found it. He got that deep shot, and he put Vicente Luque in some bad positions. He was looking for the rear naked choke multiple times. They looked very, very tight at one point in time. But Luque fought out of it. Luque, I said, even though I saw Vicente Luque stuffing the takedowns and outstriking him, because I think I took Luque by decision in my prediction. I said if he does get down there, I think he has good enough defensive jiu-jitsu that he can, fight off Michael Chiesa, find his way back to his feet, or survive a round, even though Michael Chiesa has great top pressure. And the fight was just amazing while it lasted. I mean, Vicente Luque was in deep trouble in some of those rear naked choke positions, and we know Chiesa has a great rear naked choke. Luque fought out of him. He eventually ended up in Michael Chiesa's guard. And it looked like he was going to post on him and then kind of stand up. And I guess, Vicente Luque he was in the rear naked choke position at one point. He kind of ended up almost in Michael Chiesa's guard, but it was kind of a weird position. And it looked like Chiesa was going to try to switch to an armbar. And Luque fought out of that, and it looked like he was just about to stand up, and Michael Chiesa kind of leaned in. And Luque snatched up that Darce choke so fast. And Chiesa tried to fight it off, but it was just so tight. The second he snatched it up, super tight, Chiesa taps out. And I don't think anybody was picking Luque by submission. I knew Luque had submissions. He submitted Tyron Woodley, who is a legit, guy on the ground as well. But Woodley was rocked, so it's really kind of hard to give him, so much credit for that submission win via Darce choke as well. But the Darce choke over Michael Chiesa, the guy that if somebody said Vicente Luque versus Michael Chiesa ended in submission, you would have said, okay, Chiesa won. Because I really thought Vicente Luque was just going to beat him up on the feet. but Luque pulls off an impressive performance. And now I believe in the welterweight division. That's what I loved about this card. I know it didn't have that amazing like headliner title fight on the headliner of this card, but it had quality fights with important fighters who, have a future in title contention. And that's what I loved about this card. Vicente Luque is probably one win away from a title shot. And Usman's cleaning out the division. Vicente Luque will be a fresh face. Usman's already fought everyone. He's fighting Usman again, or he's fighting Colby again. Excuse me. And Vicente Luque is a guy who, we got a fresh face. He's on a decent win streak. He's getting win over ranked guys. And I think he's probably one fight away from a title shot. Maybe match him up with Leon Edwards. I don't know. I'll probably do a matchmaking video this week, so you guys can make sure to look out for that. But amazing performance by Luque. Darce choke, first round Darce choke win. Let's move on to some of the other fights. I'm just going to go over them quickly because I don't want to make this post-fight too long. Everybody really cares about the top 3 fights. The Tecia Torres versus Angela Hill fight was a fight. I thought it was a decent strawweight fight. But in all honesty, when I look at a fight, and for you guys who've been following my channel for a little bit, and I know people are talking about Tecia Torres in future title contention. But when I look at Tecia Torres and I look at Angela Hill on tonight's card, I see 2 girls who would get absolutely smashed by the upper of the strawweight division, whether it's Rose Namajunas, the champion, whether it's Weili Zhang, or whether it's Joanna Jędrzejczyk. I just don't see Tecia nor Angela at their current states being able to be competitive with any of those 3 girls. So for me, it was hard to enjoy this fight. There was some sloppy striking. Tecia had a couple takedowns. I think Angela Hill had an early takedown. The fight was kind of back and forth. It wasn't super eventful. Tecia was getting the majority of it. I didn't score it super closely, but I think I had Tecia winning all 3 rounds. But relatively, it's not really super eventful or something that really got me excited. It was an okay fight. Tecia Torres gets the win. She can build, closer to her title shot, but I just don't see her being competitive with any of those top girls. So it's really hard for me to get excited about this win. But Angela Hill's a girl who, not that I'm high on, but she's a girl that has come out and shown she can keep improving. So maybe Tecia Torres, maybe another year or 2, keep fighting, keep building, keep getting better, keep refining her skills. And maybe she'll be able to get there to be able to compete with an elite strawweight. I don't know. So she gets the win tonight. I thought it was a decent performance. Nothing that got me super excited. Moving on to the pay-per-view opener, Kenney versus Song Yadong. Song Yadong wins by decision. And I thought, it was a solid win. Kenney was just pressuring him, and he was just outlanding him. Kenney really couldn't find him, too much. He had his moments, but there was very few moments where Kenney really did any significant damage. And Song Yadong was just countering him, backing up. It was nothing that super impressed me. And again, Song Yadong gets a quality win here. And, I'm having a good laugh saying Song Yadong for whatever reason. But it's another fight. You look at the division, and bantamweight is so stacked. I don't know where Song Yadong can go from here. He gets the win over Kenney. People were, kind of hyping up Kenney just because he went to decision with Dominic Cruz and lost. I'm kind of sick of that, people hyping people up over losses. And he was just outstruck by Song Yadong tonight. And I don't know, where Song Yadong goes from here, but he gets a win over a decent guy in Kenney. And the division is stacked, and there's a lot of fights out there. So we'll see what happens next. But the story of the fight was really Casey pressuring, not landing much. I think he landed a knee in the 3rd round. He had some moments through the fights where he landed some damage, but for the most part, it was just pressuring, getting outlanded by Song Yadong. Another fight I wanted to briefly talk about was on the prelim. Rafael Fiziev versus Bobby Green. And I think this was one of the best fights of the night. A lot of people thought Rafael Fiziev was going to come in and just blow the doors off Bobby Green. And I tweeted this out on my Twitter. If you guys have not followed me on Twitter, go follow me on Twitter. I live tweet the fights. I'll put the link in the description. But Bobby Green is a guy who's been around the UFC for years. And he's a guy that on one night, he could beat Dustin Poirier in his prime. And in his next fight, he could lose to 2020 BJ Penn. He's a guy that's so inconsistent. Some fights he can be so good, and in other fights he just drops the ball. And tonight, in a fight against where he was supposed to basically get rolled over by Fiziev, a lot of people are high on this guy, myself included. Great kicks, super technical. He had a great performance, and the first round was very close. I thought Fiziev clearly grabbed the second round, and I thought Bobby Green clearly grabbed the third round. So going to decision, not trusting the judges, I thought there was a chance that Bobby Green could have, get the upset here. But luckily that didn't happen. Fiziev gets the decision. One judge had it 30-27. I don't see how that's possible. The third round was clearly Bobby Green. But I don't trust those judges at all, but at least the right man won. There was one moment, and it's just crazy because you look at Fiziev's striking, and it's super technical. And Bobby Green just keeps his hands low. But he was landing some good strikes of his own. And at one point in that second round, he got hurt, and Fiziev was kind of swarming him. He didn't even lift his hands up, and he was just dodging all those strikes. And it was a fun fight to watch. Both guys landed some great power strikes. The first round, super close. Second round, all Fiziev. Third round, all Bobby Green. So we couldn't ask for a better fight. It was a great test for Fiziev. I can't wait to see where he goes from here in the lightweight division. I think he's a guy that could, be a future title contender. And there's very few guys this early on that I would say that about. And I think tonight it took a little bit of steam off his hype. A lot of people thought he was going to blow through Bobby Green, and that didn't happen. But Bobby Green, he's a guy almost like Michael Johnson, where on any given night he might be one of the best lightweights in the world. But at the same time, he's a guy that'll drop a fight to a guy who's not even ranked or not even a good fighter. And it's a very weird dynamic. And tonight he showed up to fight, and he put on a good performance. He lost by decision, but he put on a good performance. And I there's not much more I can say about it. I can't wait to see where Fiziev goes from here. I'm excited for him, but I think tonight it kind of, let's calm down on the hype for Rafael so far, because we really have to see him put in some more work before we start anointing him, a title contender, or, maybe he'll find his way in the rankings after this fight. I'm not sure about that. We'll see. But it was an overall decent performance. He faced a little bit of adversity. Bobby Green landed some very good strikes in the fight. And just an overall great performance by both guys. I haven't checked out any of the post-fight coverage yet. My guess is they're probably going to get fight of the night, but I don't know. That Munhoz-Aldo fight was fun, but it was just one-sided. So maybe it's probably going to be Fiziev versus Bobby Green fight of the night would be my guess. But overall, UFC 265 was a great night of fights. This was all my post-fight reaction. Do me a favor, guys. If you enjoyed this video, make sure to like the video. Make sure you're subscribed if you're not already. And thank you so much for watching. I will see you in the next video.